What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Day by NBC.
Jack Marius Tack-Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Dave Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison?
Swangle from Fort Lauderdale.
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the CS hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, Macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host.
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Iconic or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, we certainly do appreciate your support and attention. We know you have a lot of choices out there. It's cool that you choose to spend your time with us. Couldn't do it without the help of our amazing sponsors. Chemical Free Body has been a sponsor for a little while. We've had Tim James on twice now. He's doing amazing things. My God, we need to prepare our bodies for what we're dealing with. And the whole concept behind Chemical Free Body, no chemicals. We need it. Certified organic, plant-based, dairy-free, soy-free, GMO-free, gluten-free, damn near everything free except for the price, but we've got a discount code for you. You can use the promo code MACRO to save money. They've got Green 85 drink. They've got weightless formula, which is pretty cool. Probiotic. You can sign up for classes. You can sign up for coaching. Tim has a podcast. It's amazing. My God, after 2020, we probably have figured out that we've got to get ourselves healthy. We can't depend on the mainstream corporate media to tell us how to do that. They won't even tell us to get exercise, eat well, and get out in the sun. So it's going to be up to us. So check out Chemical Free Body. Even if you don't buy anything, just go check out the website, surf around, see if you see anything you like. But if you do find something, use the promo code MACRO. It helps to support this show. And of course, it supports Tim as well. Well, our guest today is a special guest. Special because we met in an Acapulco. I'll get into the details of that in a minute. But he is my good friend and artist, Johnny Dollar. Johnny, how are you?
Better and better, man. It's great to be here, Charlie.
Well, it's good to have you. And I'm excited because I've talked about this on the podcast and on interviews I've done about my appreciation for an Acapulco and how you go down there, you don't know what you're going to expect. You have interesting experiences, you meet fascinating people. And the way you and I met was kind of cool. I'll explain it. So they have these a la carte items you can sign up for at the conference. It's like, you can sign up to go release baby sea turtles into the ocean at night on buses and things like that. You get to go to these like concerts that they have. You can sign up for, unschooling programs with David Rodriguez and guys like that who I've had on the show talk about all these interesting things. But there's also something else you can sign up for at night, and that's the psychedelics. That's the plant-based medicines. They bring in shaman that are like straight out of the jungle. I mean, these guys were so out of the jungle. I don't even think they spoke Spanish. And like little Mayan looking guys, they're cool outfits, and they'd come in and do their ayahuasca ceremony, which I've done. And so I signed up for the Jaguar session, which is the 5-MeO DMT. And you go into this cool room, and they've got, candles, and they've got flowers and sage burning and incense and musicians and all of these great things. And they get you in a big circle, and they explain to you what you're going to experience with this. And then they partner you up. And so I got partnered next to the guy next to me, who is Johnny Dollar. And I say, "What do you do?" And he said, I'm an artist. And I go, "Well, what is that? What kind of art?" And he said, I do post-pop surrealism. I go, "What does that even mean?" He said, "Well, I've got art where it's Mickey Mouse holding a canister of gas with a Bitcoin logo, and he's poured gas and he's burning down the central bank." And I was like, "Holy shit, you and I are going to be friends for sure." Like, I got to go see this. So we did the whole session. He was my partner. I watched him while he did his session. He watched me while I did mine. We bonded. We went upstairs. We got into his art book, which I have right here. He's going to go over some of the art from it. And we've just stayed friends, So, so here we are, and we connected again this last that was the first in Acapulco I went to, 2019. 2020 rolls around this February. We meet up again, we connect, we have a good time. We didn't do the DMT session, or I did, but I didn't do it with you. But but we had a great time. We talked about the world. We talked about art. Admittedly, I know very little about art. The only thing I know about art is that I know what I like when I see it. And when I went up to your room, you had opened this booklet, Johnny Dollar Painting, 2014 to 2018, which is available for sale, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I looked through it, and I was like, okay, this is the type of art I would do if I had an ounce of artistic ability. But since I don't, I'm just going to have to appreciate the work that you did. So tell me, how in the hell do you wind up doing? What's your journey in life that takes you to a point where you're making unbelievable Bitcoin and alternative media related artwork that's it's blowing up now? How did you get into this?
I kind of fell into it. I was a figurative painter. I did landscapes. I painted, was a young artist, and I like to paint naked women. And that was it was a good gig. I enjoyed it. But as time went on, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, started to get into the open source community. I mean, even since, college, I'd kind of been seeing what was going on in the world, stuff we talked about. I'm sure your listeners probably already know. Yeah. The nefarious nature of the world isn't what we think it is. And I started seeing it, and I just tried to put it together with this language that I didn't have words for it. So I had to grab these images, and a lot of it is surreal. It comes from the subconscious and dreams. And that's really, I think, where a lot of good art comes from. It's just you get an idea, that shower thought, that idea, where'd that come from? It just came and put it together. It's funny as the journey goes, because right now it is blowing up, and a lot of people have been contacting me because, like, a lot of the art and stuff I've been doing, things you've been writing about, have all happened.
Yeah.
Doing it 5 years ago, even last year, it was like, oh, this is my vision of this apocalyptic dystopian future that looks like Disneyland, right. And all of a sudden it's here. So it's kind of weird as an artist, because it's like the art I did, it doesn't seem as cutting edge now. It seems more like realism, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us in this community kind of feel like that. It's like, it was like this slow thing. Then it all happened at once.
Right.
Like we saw it coming, if you know what I mean. Yeah. All these changes so fast. But we saw them coming like in slow motion, and then bam.
Well, as a prime example, last time you and I were hanging out, it was February of 2020. We get home, Corona kicks off. You know what I mean? Within like 2 or 3 weeks after that. So it can happen fast. And I'm like you. I mean, it's like we went from talking about topics that were fictional, set in the future, and they went from being fictional to non-fictional like overnight almost. It's bizarre. So yeah, I'm sure people are like looking at your artwork before and going, yeah, that's an interesting version of where the future could be. But now, like you said, it's not speculative. This is where we are right now. Hey, guess what? You're painting landscapes. The landscape is currently right. It's right now. This landscape is it's horrible. In fact, in some ways, I know I feel this way. You might feel the same way. It's like, I wish that I was wrong. I wish that everything I was writing about was incorrect. And because what I've been writing about is this slow march towards this Orwellian future of less rights and less freedoms and more restrictions and more authoritarianism. And I'd give anything to be absolutely out of my mind wrong on it. But unfortunately, it looks like we're not. So your artwork does a great job of doing what art is supposed to do, conveying a message without the need for somebody to stand there and explain it to you. And you did that with me. When you brought me up, when we went up to your room after the DMT session, you like looked through these things. You're like, tell me what you think. You wouldn't tell me what you thought about it. You wanted to get my opinion. And I would say, well, I think this, or I think that'd be cool. Interesting. I'm like, what, am I wrong? You're like, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. I'm just curious. So in, art and writing, my literature too, but specifically art, is open to interpretation. But it seems like these days there's less flexibility in your interpretation. It's basically, we're seeing what you were writing about. It's not speculative. It's turning out to be, might have been speculative when you painted it, but it's become reality. And that's got to be kind of weird.
It's kind of weird. And is it still motivating to paint? You can't really do speculative art about the present. It's already happened. I mean, right now, there's a part of me that just wants to go paint still lives of flowers.
Yeah.
Just because, and I think it's a natural reaction to get away from this, because and other people are doing it. But unfortunately, I'd like to say other people are taking the call and fighting the good fight. Mm-hmm. But the disheartening thing about 2020 is how many people are just asking for authoritarianism.
Yeah.
It's like, they're asking to be spied on. They're asking for, it's weird. I don't want to say it's lowered my thoughts on humanity or, my expectations.
Oh, it has mine. I'd like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but it's like, there's so many people that are doing the exact opposite of what you should be doing in this situation. I feel like, come on, people, let's get it together. This is the point in time where you're supposed to go, no, we're not allowing more spying on us. We're not giving up more of our rights. But unfortunately, it seems like it's like the Olympics to see who can give up the rights fast enough, like one country versus the other. It's fascinating and terrifying, of course, at the same time.
Well, Charlie, I used to write about privacy. I called myself a privacy advocate. The Johnny Dollar thing, as your audience may not know, my real name is not Johnny Dollar.
Right.
I sign my real name, my signature on a painting, and then I cover it with masking tape. Call it masking tape encryption. And then I signed Johnny Dollar on there. And the idea is, if you really wanted to know my true identity, you could just rip off the tape and, you'd see who I was. It's like a metaphor for, our false sense of privacy. Mm-hmm. That was how I thought it. And I'd kind of been advocating privacy with different reasons for a few years. And then I started with like, the Cambridge Analytica thing happened with Facebook. Yeah. And I was like, I don't have to do anything anymore. Everyone's going to just quit Facebook because they'll want privacy. Didn't happen. The Cloud Act happened. And that was, where governments could surveil on us overseas. And it was a really big act. I was like, man, people will quit now. But, will want surveillance, privacy then. They didn't. But what shocked me was, it wasn't that people just didn't care about privacy because they might pretend they care if it's convenient or, but I was shocked at the large number of people that were anti-privacy.
Yeah.
That were, how dare you want privacy? I get it. There's people that don't like doors shut in their homes. Like you can't shut a door, it's, maybe I'm making that metaphor, but there was a lot of people who were like, how dare you want privacy? I don't want privacy. Why? What are you hiding? And it's, and we already know, like if you got, nothing to hide is very close to nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be disheartened, but I was like kind of taken back. And I realized that people that want privacy, I'll help. But there's a lot of people that don't want privacy, and I'm not going to, what's that expression? Pearls to swine. Like only have so much energy. So I have to help the people that want the help.
Yeah.
You can only do so much convincing. I mean, because otherwise most people just want Disneyland. They want a Disneyland full of cameras and, they want, just cops everywhere, but everything's pretty and colorful. Like the dystopian movies are always like it's rainy and it's dark and cloudy, but really your dystopia, your fascist reality has got, is bright and colorful. It's got cool logos and, cartoon characters everywhere and Hello Kitty, and that's like, it's Disneyland, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. And they talk about that in like Rules for Radicals and all of these dystopian books, 1984 and Brave New World. They talk about keep it like down to a motto, like buzzwords or phrases and things like that you repeat over and over again. And that's all that people really need. You get them attached to that. You talked about people actively being anti-privacy. That's the weirdest thing ever. But I know exactly what you're talking about. There's this misguided belief that they are being they are doing their duty by removing the barriers for the government to come in and do what they need to do to snoop around and see. It's that if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear, that sort of mentality. But we see Janet Napolitano come out and talk about, if you see something, say something, that for the Department of Homeland Security with this whole, campaign that they had out years ago. It's like, oh yeah, you mean like Julian Assange did? Or like Chelsea Manning, or like, you know what I mean? Like those people saw something, they said something, and what was their reward? They were buried under the prison, So we're being trained to view our anonymity or our freedom as some sort of like I don't know, add-on, a la carte feature to our existence that we don't really need, and that if we were really good citizens, we would turn in those excess rights that don't really matter much, because that would show, our loyalty to the government. But you and I would presume almost everybody listening to this, we see the world much differently. We're not in a huge hurry to give up our rights, because those rights never seem to come back. And when we're talking about something like privacy, man, privacy is a tough one, because the removal of privacy turns you into, it turns you into Julian Assange, sitting in the Ecuadorian embassy with cameras everywhere, unable to live your life for fear that not just, like the olden days when say like God is watching you, but literally somebody is watching you. At least maybe God is or isn't watching you. But in Julian Assange's case, somebody is watching him, watching his every move. And that has a psychological impact on us. So it affects the way we act. It affects the way we talk. It affects what we talk about and what we're able, who we interact with. The removal of privacy is dangerous to a society, is it not?
It isn't, but I would take it to a couple of points. One is there's a whole generation that has no concept of it.
Yeah.
The Gen Z, Zoomers, whatever you want to call them. People under 25, I know a lot of them, they've been spied upon since they were a child. They had cameras in their cribs. Their Nintendo DSs were spying on them in a sense. They've never had a concept of privacy. They don't really get it. And they're gone. They're 25 years old. They're grown adults that have been spied their whole life. And that's just, they accept that's the way reality is, at least in, the Western world.
Right.
When I say that. But the other thing with privacy that I see, this is, because you mentioned the Julian Assange and a camera over your head and, Big Brother watching or God watching. But to me, privacy isn't about the past or what you did or doing. It's about what you're going to do in the future. Because it's not, the government watching you. It's the algorithm watching you. It's watching everything you do, how you scroll, how long you look at something, not just what you like. It can tell, it's gathering data, where you went, who you were next to, what you were watching, all this data from all these different places. And it's putting it together, and it's an algorithm. And it's been designed to just predict what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. It says, oh, well, Charlie, and it also knows that when you're emotionally charged, you're more susceptible to programming. So Charlie's agitated, in a bad mood or sad. Let's show him a Sarah McLachlan dog commercial. Right. Get him sad. And then let's give him a coupon for Haagen-Dazs right down the street. It could be something like that. Yeah. Or it could be a funnel of, he cares about these issues. Let's put these political ads in front of him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it could be 20 years from now. It's just adding up who you are. What are the buttons that push that takes to push you? And to me, that's way scarier than, some advertiser, madman from the 50s that's, using Freudian tricks. No, it's an algorithm that's going to your deep brain stem that really doesn't even care. It just wants your attention and figure out what you're going to do and how to keep your attention. It's go ahead. I know.
It's devious. I have a marketing degree. You know what I mean? So it's part of me is went to school to figure out, and not to say that my life is necessarily going to be in marketing, but it's okay, you go in and you're in the business component and you're oh, this is how you sell a brand of toothpaste. This toothpaste versus that toothpaste. You make this one a little bit better, have the packaging look different, the ad speaks to some, psychology aspect of it. And all that's fine. And Google comes out, years later after I'm out of school and they put together their platform and next thing you know, their Gmail comes out and it's looking for keywords and it's creating these advertising. And from a purely advertising standpoint, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that that's kind of what you're trying to do. You're trying to figure out what makes a person tick so that you can show your product in a light that you think might appeal to this person the most. So if it stayed in that world, I could deal with it. It'd just be to me, building a better mousetrap. You'd move past the Freudian stuff and the Edward Bernays propaganda, and you'd move into this new level, which is hey, we can even use computers. But now it's even beyond that when you've got artificial intelligence, which is just sucking in all of this information, making connections which may or may not actually even exist. It may paint a portrait of you that is wildly inaccurate. It probably is going to paint, as it gets better, a fairly detailed portrait of you, especially if you're on social media like I am, especially if you're, if you're texting and all these things. All that information is going somewhere. It's being stored. And it reminds me of what Edward Snowden says. He said that the problem is you don't have to be doing anything wrong now, but in the future, if you do something wrong, because all this information is kept, it can then go back in time. Whoever needs to can go back and look in time, and they can create the justification for rounding you up and arresting you, or where we're moving to now, which had been theoretical, and Philip K. Dick wrote about it in the Minority Report, and then Steven Spielberg did the movie Minority Report, and we're talking about pre-crime, and artificial intelligence is talking about that. Now I'm starting to see articles on like Activist Post about cities trying to roll out AI pre-crime like now. And I'm thinking, holy shit, we are on a very slippery slope here. So the idea of privacy doesn't work in an AI-driven world where it's sucking everything up. I mean, in this, I think we're starting to put the pieces together and say, well, this is part of that smart cities program. And if you get in the smart cities, then you've got everything kind of wired. Everything's wired because it's smart, right? Well, it's smart because it's watching you too. So you're oh, great. My toaster's going to talk to my refrigerator. My toaster's going to know when I'm out of bread. My refrigerator's going to know when it's out of bread. It's going to automatically order it from Amazon or Whole Foods, whatever. It would be, and all that. You're going, cool. Sounds neat. Until your toaster and your refrigerator conspire against you with your healthcare provider who's going, you bought too many ding dongs. Too many, your rates just went up, and it's like, because I know it's in your fridge, and you're like, God damn it. So this is a very dangerous slope.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, where do you see us going with this?
Oh, one thing I'd add is you mentioned marketing and advertisers. The word propaganda is the same word for advertising in Spanish.
Really?
Un propaganda. It's like, yeah. I mean, a propagandist, didn't technically used to be a bad word. It just got associated with Goebbels or Himmler. I don't remember which ones was the propaganda arm, but of the Nazis. But propaganda simply wasn't a bad word back in the day. It just simply meant advertising or PR. I guess they've changed propaganda departments to PR departments.
Yeah, like they changed the Department of War into the Department of Defense, playing word games.
Sure, exactly. Yeah. No, where I see the AI going, and I was playing around with AI art. I have been for about 6 months, 8 months. I got contacted because I was been on the technology end of the art world. So these people were sending me things. Hey, check out our new AI thing. There's these tools, and a lot of artists are making computer art using AI to create images, using it to create text. I mean, I put in images and it created words. I started typing in a story and it started making images based on the words I typed.
Whoa.
And I looked at it. I didn't look at it for like 4 or 5 months. And I came back and it had exponentially gotten better, like incredibly better, to the point of where it was making a real story. Like it could make bios. It could be, within very short time, a year, 2 years. Yeah, it could make a story. You tell it the archetypes. You plug in all this stuff. It could create writing. All artists are now, a lot of these artists are curators. They're just like picking and choosing what the AI did and say, oh, I like this. I like this. And you say that's cool. That's like a photographer or a DJ or something.
Right.
But as time goes on, the AI will be its own curator. Oh. It will know, and we separate it to marketing, to art, to this. It's all the same to the AI. It's just data.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized this AI, it was less a tool for the artist as the artist was a tool for it to feed it data.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I've this last 6 months to a year. My whole thoughts on tech have been evolving as it evolves.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. We're in it's a strange time. Your art. Let's pull up some pictures, and for people that are listening, we're gonna paint the picture with our words. But there's a video version of this podcast that is out there, and we're gonna see some art, because I'm telling you right now, man, Johnny Dollar's art is so fucking good that you'll look at it and you'll go, oh, I get it right away. I love where you're going with this. So this is the first one that's up on the screen right now. This is what I was talking about when I asked what do you do? What kind of art? Mickey Mouse holding a lighter, got a can of gasoline next to him with a Bitcoin logo. Explain this, fill in the details on this painting for people, please.
Well, I usually just say Mickey's broken the shackles of the copyright cartel. And he's used Bitcoin to not only free himself, but to burn down this towering bank of Babel and free us all.
Nice. Who is that in the smoke?
Who do you see?
I see Abraham Lincoln.
That's who I see.
Okay.
Yeah, I was making another face, but then I saw Abraham Lincoln, and it's appropriate.
It is appropriate.
You know?
It's amazing. So it's like there's a lot going on here. There's listen, anytime somebody's burning down the bank, I'm in favor of that. I mean, maybe not literally, but conceptually, burning down the bank. I like that idea. That Bitcoin is the accelerant that gets the fire going, I believe is amazing. There's a lot to read into this, but this is not. Would you, if somebody? I mean, there's a political or sociological slant to your artwork. I mean, you're definitely making a statement with it, and I don't know much about art. I don't know too many artists. I do know who Banksy is. I am a fan of the work. If somebody made a comparison between what you're doing and what Banksy's doing, is that a compliment to you? Is that an insult to you? Are you indifferent about that?
It would totally be a compliment.
Okay.
It'd totally be a compliment. Banksy is different. I mean, Banksy's greatest artwork is his ability to remain anonymous.
I know. Speaking of privacy.
That in this modern age, or contemporary age, that's a work of art to stay anonymous. Banksy's he's one of the greatest artists of this generation for sure. Most influential, at least.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
And with his art, much like your art, I take a look at it real quick and I have an idea of what it's about. I think about it a little bit longer. If I take that image out and I think about it during the course of the day, I find myself going much deeper. Like I get the feeling that like maybe I'm only scratching the surface of what I'm seeing in this. And I guess that's the beauty of art, right? It's in the eye of the beholder and they can read into it what they will. I know I hear a lot of interviews with like musicians and people ask them like, what's that song about? And they'll say, I don't want to tell you what that song is about because I don't want to ruin what somebody else might think that song is about. Cause they're probably wrong. But in their mind, what they see is what they see, and so I don't want to shit on that. So when I see your artwork, I know what I see. I mean, I know where I get my underlying themes of it. But I feel like if you showed this to 100 people, you might get a variety of opinions of what it's showing, what it means to them, and I think that's maybe the power of art.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Example,
and I would also add that, I don't often describe them also because words are limiting. We don't want to really get into linguistics too much.
Yeah.
But, words have different meanings and sub-context for each individual. So things can get lost in words. Yeah. And as a writer, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. Your words can mean different things to different people, or the phrases can be taken out of context. This is just I write about this, as you know, I write about, and I've got a new book with Jeff Berwick. So of course we're talking about crypto, we're talking about banking, but this is just like a visual representation of one of the chapters of my book is this picture right here. I mean, it kind of says it all,
Well, feel free to add it in there. It's all yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. The thing I would mention is I was thinking a lot about not only banking, but copyright. Copyright it's like this unsung chain that's been put around us, especially in the last 50 years. Copyright, was originally designed to promote, innovation and art, music, patents, and science. And it was, originally I believe it was 25 years, and they did the artist's life, then the artist's life plus so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was 1991, Mickey Mouse, Steamboat Willie was going to come up for the public domain. And Walt Disney had long been dead, the creator.
Yeah.
But the Walt Disney Corporation did not want to lose that intellectual property. Despite the fact that Walt Disney, a lot of his greatest work came from the public domain, like folk tales like Cinderella, Pinocchio, Snow White. Walt Disney, the artist, used a lot of public domain stuff, our collective culture. But Walt Disney Corporation used Sonny Bono, senator at the time, the Sonny Bono law, and they changed the law so they could keep their copyright until 2023. Or I believe it's 2023. It's coming up here soon, and I'm willing to bet they're going to change the law again to extend it, because they're not going to give up their control over our culture. And getting into like culture is a powerful thing. These corporations control our collective. Batman, Superman. These stories are very old. They should be all of ours in the public domain, just as is Sherlock Holmes. Anyone can make a Sherlock Holmes story, and that's only like 20 years older than these other ones. But it's in the public domain. Anyway, that's my thought on it. I don't want to rattle on too much.
I forgot. You told me that story before, but I forgot about that. But yeah, that's right. That Disney, and Disney. We talk about Disney because Disney's involved in a lot of this stuff. They're not exactly the nicest.
Yeah, no, they're not a nice guy corporation. And, and it's not just Disney. It's patents. They use patents to control technology and suppress technology. These things shouldn't last forever. Right. There's countless stories of really like tech that would really help people, humanity. But, it's stepping on vested interests. Yeah. So the vested interests suppress this technology using patent law. All right. Should we switch to another image?
Yeah. I have a friend that works at Disney, and he told me something that was really fascinating a couple weeks ago. Okay. He said that they have, at Disney Corporation, they have more lawyers than they have animators.
Wow.
Yeah. That should give you an idea of what they're...
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Really, you see, I don't want to spend the whole time talking about how horrible, like dystopia, like I've seen it written with the big D for Disney, that's. All right. Shall we do another image?
Let's do another one. Yep.
All right, cool. Let's go with,
and for people that want to go find out what this is all about, you can go to Johnny's website, johnnydollar.biz. It's JOHNNYDOLLAR.biz. JohnnyDollar.biz. You can check all this stuff out. Okay, this one is my favorite because there's so much depth to it. So talk to us about Show Me Your Cookies.
Okay. Show Me Your Cookies. Well, it was inspired by an academic paper called Show Me Your Cookies and I'll Tell You Who You Are. And in that paper, it's an older paper, it's like 2011. These researchers were looking at people's browser cookies. And we know this now, but it was kind of revealing back then. They could tell from a person's browser cookies, their age, their race, their gender, but they could also tell where they worked, where they went to school, what they were going to buy in the future. They just gather a lot of information about them. So that inspired this painting, Show Me Your Cookies. So the cookie monster is consuming data. He just can't stop. He's compulsively consuming data. Nom, 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 nom. Mm-hmm. And you can see this girl, she's walking naked through a digital landscape. Mm-hmm. And what you might notice are these birds are following her, tracking her quietly without her knowing it. And those birds form the cookie monster. Mm-hmm. All the QR codes are scannable. and they lead to a different place online, and they give information. They tell a story, a loose narrative, depending on where you start and where you end. As well as this is also a cryptocurrency wallet. There's some cryptocurrency hidden within the painting, because this painting uses not only like the QR codes, but it uses some medieval cryptography. Which I guess I can reveal that now if you'd like.
Yeah, just to paint the picture a little bit for the people at home. So it's a vertical painting. The top 2/3 has a large blue Cookie Monster or Cookie Monster-like person, so that you don't get sued, I don't know, who's holding up a cookie. And on that cookie, instead of it being chocolate chips, it's kind of a blurred QR code. Beneath this Cookie Monster is a large expanded floor, and a lady without clothes is walking across this expanded floor, but the floor itself is made up of multiple rows of QR codes. The black and white sort of looks like back in the old days, the snow on your television. And so she's walking across this floor that's made of these QR codes, and they're scannable. Of course, you take your phone and hold it up to this, and it's going to take you different places. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like you can scan one of these QR codes, and they do take you to different places. A lot of them deal with privacy and different stories about tech. But it also, like I said, contains an Ethereum wallet, which is a cryptocurrency. And it holds a public key. A cryptocurrency wallet has like an address, a public address, and then it has a private key, which is like a password to move the money. And I hid that private key in the cookie that's swirling around and bent. Mm-hmm. It's been solved, so there's people have added more crypto to it, but it's been taken out. But that swirl is a medieval cryptography. If you take a reflective cylinder, a round cylinder, and stick it in the middle of that curve, its reflection would be a square, and you can scan that.
That's so crazy. When you explained that to me and showed me that, I mean, look, I'm impressed with anybody that has artistic skills, but this is beyond artistic skills. This is like steganography, like hiding images inside of images and hiding codes. And this is like some, Dan Brown shit. You know what I mean? This is like, you can go on this is like the greatest treasure hunt ever. It's so much thought and like symbolism and layers to this that I saw it. And yes, I had just done DMT like earlier in the day, but my mind was blown. I was like, holy shit, how did somebody come up with this? And what a cool idea. So, I have genuine enthusiasm for this, man, because it's first of all, I'm impressed with artists because I don't feel like I either don't have that in me or I haven't developed that skill in me. So when I see somebody that's artistic, it's like magic to me, but to take it the next couple of levels and to have all of this deep symbolism and have it mean so much, and talking about cookies and privacy and this whole thing tied back, it's fucking amazing to me.
Thanks, man.
There's no question there. It's just a statement. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah. No, thanks. No, I appreciate it. It's I really appreciate it. No, I've got a lot of cool work in mind. But like we talked about earlier, this year's really knocked me for a loop. Because it's like, I don't know how, there's so much going on. Everything's so politically charged right now. So thanks. I enjoy delving into the art and getting a little bit of escape from it. And I think we all need not to fully, distract ourselves, but to kind of step back from it, long view, and try to smile. Because how else are you going to deal with this stuff,
What was the irony of the step back and try to smile about it, and I'm sure that this will probably in some way be incorporated into your work, is the concept of masks and how it hides that smile and how it's a muzzle for us and how it how it prevents people from seeing the most expressive part of our face or to hear our words, and the symbolism of a mask. You know, the idea that you could have a mask for Halloween and it's scary, or you could have a mask for a costume party and it's fun, or you could have a mask that's a symbol of like government overreach and insanity in the form of these masks that we're having to deal with now. I can't even wait to see and then there you go. All right, so next picture is of a painting with masks, and I did not know this was coming, but I guess we're on the right track.
So this one, I started this painting probably in 2004 and finished it a couple years ago, last year actually. It's called The Winter of PC, or Winter of Political Correctness. Mm-hmm. And somebody asked me, he's like, how'd you know everyone would be wearing masks? And, I think it's a perfect example for the way we live, to where so many of us are just hiding our intentions, the truth. We go outside. I guess you could say on one level, it's like Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and we're all players. That we have to wear these masks, but now we literally have to wear these masks. And I don't know, Charlie. It's really, like I said, it's on one level, it's like, if you look at this image, I guess we should probably talk about the image itself. All the characters are wearing a mask except one.
Oh, the kid.
The kid. Because they don't wear the masks, at least in the masks of pretending they're something they're not.
Right.
Like you said earlier, I actually, a lot of these paintings are multi-level in a sense. There's the dance within the dance, the beat within the drum beat. Mm-hmm. So this has different things. I don't usually talk too much about it, but everything means something. Like in the back left corner, at maybe 10 o'clock, you see the two dogs being held back, the animal instinct within us that's held in reserve. Funny side note of this painting, I painted this painting when I was living in Charlottesville, Virginia, briefly taking some classes at UVA. And that statue in the back, that was the study for that statue was a statue of Robert E. Lee that caused a big ruckus a couple of years ago.
Wow.
In Charlottesville.
That's funny. You had that's been in your painting since way before then.
Yes. Well, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. So these statues have been, you could say at least models for my drawings since I was a kid. There's always the guy and the horse.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other subject, the taking down of statues, and they'll be putting up new statues. It's just, I've thought a lot about mythology, cultural mythology, what holds a culture together. And, I've come to realize a lot of it is mythology. Whenever I've traveled around the world, you probably experience the same. Wherever you go, there's a guy on a horse, whether it be in Europe or South America. In South America, you can't, like a lot of countries, you can't throw a rock without hitting a statue of Simon Bolivar. It's that's a guy on a horse, and everyone says, and you ask, who's that guy? They're like, oh, it's a very great man, right. And that's how it is. Like, they indoctrinate us with these statues, this culture, this mythology. And I feel like in America, at least, and it's probably happening all over the Western world, they're tearing down our old mythology. And I believe that vacuum is going to have to be filled. Yeah. Now, obviously some people are thinking, oh, we're going to fight for the old mythology. That's a whole other conversation, but there will be a mythology. Like, a culture has to have something to hold it together, like some belief. Any thoughts on that? I know I'm just kind of rambling on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's accidental that they do that with, removing statues. That's a very Marxist type thing to do. It's just destroy the history so that people can't won't remember history, so they won't know what's coming. And usually what's coming is lining up against the wall and getting shot in the back of the head, by somebody because
yeah, on one level. I mean, it's not also Marxist. It's whatever, I mean, they tore down Saddam Hussein's statue. The Taliban was blowing up old, those Buddhist, big Buddhas, if I recall. I think it was the Taliban back in the day. Yeah. They tear down the idols. That's the thing. These are the idols of the past. And, we live in a culture where we kind of push religion to the side. So our new mythology are war heroes or cultural figures, but they are the idols.
Yeah.
And you got to tear down the idols when you make a new religion. And I guess Marxism is obviously a religion. I think his name was Antonio Gramsci or whatever. I don't go into your territory. I often muddle names and dates, but they had their guy that envisioned, if you really want Marxism to work, you got to do it through culture, not the economics.
Right.
The Frankfurt School, I believe, was all about that. Like how can we, do it through institutions, get them through their kids.
Yeah.
That old, stereotype of the 60s professor, some, lady going, we're going to get you through your kids.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what that meant 20 years ago.
Right.
I get it now.
I get it now too.
I mean, a lot of my friends are starting to homeschool.
Yeah, exactly. Or because they're seeing what's happening in the university systems and they're saying, I don't know about this, man. These kids first of all, they don't seem prepared for the real world when they get out of college. They seem the exact opposite, more unprepared than maybe when they first went. And they're coming out with some thoughts that don't exactly, I'm all for interesting new versions of, how you perceive reality or where you want to take things. I'm open for the conversation, but the what they're proposing doesn't make any sense. And if you challenge them on it, then they have to go to their safe space because you've triggered them. And all that stuff seems to me like this is very unhealthy. And it doesn't seem like it doesn't, if you're going to change the culture and destroy the culture of the United States. And I think a case can be made that some aspects of the culture of the United States, could stand to be updated. That's fine, but what are you going to replace it with? And when you replace it with insanity, and when people challenge you on this, then you can't have the argument. You have to like plug your ears and run to your safe space. I just I'm not. That's a conversation that I just don't know why we're even having, because it's like this seems like lost kids LARPing like they're revolutionaries, but not really changing anything. This pulling down the statues. It's like, okay, I get it. You're mad at history. History's bad. You don't want these people to, you don't want people to remember these bad people that were in charge of slaves and everything. Okay, I can maybe understand all that, but it's like, are we not also then erasing our negative pasts that could serve as a reminder of where we don't want to go? Like, we were this before. Let's keep a statue to it, not because we like it, but because it's a reminder that we're one step away from going back to the time of slavery,
I think that's the point. If you want to erase history, you want to like start fresh. If for the revolutionary, you want to be like 0 AD.
Right.
This is now the new beginning. And I feel, honestly, what we're talking about now is like last year's conversation. Because this year's conversation isn't about the college kids. It's about the elementary school kids.
Yes.
That, that's what's very troubling.
Yeah.
There's a full-on indoctrination. They're using, all the addictive tools they have, the colors. I was telling you before we got on the call, I mentioned I was trying to work on a dopamine detox.
Yeah.
But they use these dopamine triggers to get kids addictive, and they'll make addictive games.
Yeah.
And these are learning tools, but they're just steady feeding them propaganda.
Yeah.
They're doing it with Netflix. They're doing it with the teachers, and teachers are like on a Zoom call. They're making it like parents can't get involved with young children, like young children. Like there's districts where like, the parents aren't allowed to watch the classroom.
Right.
it's all like they're blending genders. I didn't really want to get into gender because, you know, I know I'm in the art world. I know a lot of people, but there's a lot being done to little children right now to where, you know, they don't need to be worrying about shit like this. No. You know, really, they should be reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that's about it. And maybe going outside and exercising. Yeah. Because, you know, little pudgy kids need to get some fresh air. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about the dopamine detox. What does that entail?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you how it started. So I've been doing I've been selling NFTs, these digital art online. I had a project a few months ago, and I started selling them on a site called Rarible. It's a very cool site. It's for people that are into crypto. They'll know what I'm talking about. But just to summarize it, I've been selling art online, but not just paintings, digital art, like little drawings that vary in price from like $10 to a few $100. And I've been doing it using Twitter. That's where this market was. And I hadn't really been on Twitter before, just a little here and there. I started tweeting and I started getting likes. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I started making sales on Rarible. And yeah, it was nice to get a sale as an artist, you know, get some money. But when you get a sale, there's this flashing red light bolt. Like there's this lightning bolt. And when you get a sale, it's flashing red. That's like, oh, that's nice. I got a sale. Somebody likes me, you know. The next day I sold, you know, a couple dozen pieces of art in a month, you know, or more. It was like a lot. And it was cool. It was like almost every day I'd wake up, I'd turn on the computer, and I get that flashing red bulb. And Charlie, you know, at this point in my career, I'm not that worried about $20, you know, but I really needed that flashing red light, that bolt to, you know, just give me that dopamine rush. Right. And, you know, I was using Twitter, and I was like catching myself logging on to Twitter. I don't have it on my phone, so I'd get it on my laptop. I was logging in like 10 times a day to check how many likes I got. I needed that heart. I needed that red color. I needed that flash. You got that sale. You got that. They really like me. It's like hitting that deep spark part of my brain, the stem. And I needed this constant, you know, electronic addiction. And that's just one level. You know, I was like in bed and I was turning on my laptop to look at Twitter to see if I got any likes or any messages. And I know I'm not the only one that does this, you know, but I
do the same thing. It's like, you know, you post something that you think is super funny or witty or whatever, and you like, if you get the right validation, it's like getting pats on the back. It's stupid, but we're all do it. I mean, it hits.
We do, but it like rewires your brain. Yeah. Like I was, especially in lockdown, you know, I live alone with my dog, you know, in the studio, you know, I get out, see some people, you know, but in general, I'm alone or I'm talking to someone online. And online, you know, you get the rush of the like, but you also get this instant gratification of you're out of your head. You're going external. Like it was probably a few days ago, I was like, all right, I got to get off the electronics. Let me turn off these distractions, watching YouTube while I work or listening to a podcast and all these things. They're good and all. But I was like too much out of my head, like listening to those things. And I went to cook some dinner. And I was like, oh, let me just eat it. I had turned off the computer on purpose. But I went to go eat. And I was like automatically turning on the computer to watch a show. Like, I was like, what am I doing? Like it'd been so long that I sat down and chewed and tasted my food. There was no music, no distractions, no nothing. I was just eating like a normal, something humans have done for millennia. Just enjoy the taste of food. And it was hard. It was difficult not to have the input to sit down and just read a book, you know, like. And that's the dopamine rush, you know, like you constant, like external stimulation, whether it be a new show, this validation. Oh, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to, you know, whether it be validation of, hey, you're a good boy. Somebody likes your stuff, or, oh, my friends are on TV on my favorite show. I know I'll enjoy this.
Right.
I don't have to think about the projects, my mom aging, all the, life.
Right.
And that's the dopamine thing. And like I said, it was a constant need of external stimulation.
Yeah.
And the computer's the worst because they do it on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Like for anyone out there, if you're addicted to your phone and you want to make it a little less addictive, you can make it monochrome. Make your phone black and white, grayscale, and it'll cut its addictiveness by factors.
Wow.
I mean, they make it colors. Oh, yeah. They make the sounds when you get a like or something. Bing! And like these pretty sounds, and you get a heart. These are things that are colors that they'll get you. No, I mean, I talked to a guy that used to work at Google. He was with their ethics department back in the day. And he was telling me about the algorithm goes for the deep brain stem. He kept using this word, the deep brain stem. And I was like, what's he talking about? Yeah. But it's like the reptilian part of your brain deep down in there. And that's what the algorithm's going for.
Okay. We're in trouble.
Oh, dude, it's bad. It's scary. 80% of YouTube views, like watches, are clicks on thumbnails, not searches. And you say, well, okay, whatever. That's you're on there. But like when this guy was talking, it was like a small crowd he was talking to initially. He was like, you ever been on, just wanted to log into YouTube for, 15 minutes. Next thing you know, 3 hours later, you're watching a Jordan Peterson video going, how did I get here?
Right.
And I was thinking, like, how does he know me? And I'm looking around and everyone's going, wow. It's the algorithm. And he's like I said, it was 80% of views are clicking on a thumbnail. And I'd catch myself. I was like, I was clicking on the image and then justifying it by reading the title.
Right.
It's like, that's why pretty girl's face. Oh, pretty, you click. Those are the thumbnails that get clicked the most, a person's face. Because, humans, you're a little kid, you see your mom's face when you're a kid. That's the thing we identify with the most. But that being said, like, I cut down my YouTube watching by putting in a plug-in that removes thumbnails. If anyone finds themselves binge watching YouTube, you can just remove the thumb. I'll still click on stuff, but I'll read it, decide. It's really wild. Like little things you can do, and you can kind of hack the computer that's hacking you. It is scary. It is scary. I mean, it's really humbling. Because, I always grew up, I got free will. I'm a man. I can think. on one level, I'm just a meat computer that, it's getting programmed. Ding. Oh, I do this. And most of our logic, I think, just justifies our actions. We justify what we did with our logic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll let you speak.
The first step to acknowledging that, or the first step to changing is acknowledging that there's a problem, that maybe we're meat computers that are getting programmed. We don't love to admit that. Not the greatest thing to admit, but if we're going to be honest with ourselves, that's what's happening. We're getting programmed. Okay, we can deal with that. It's not necessarily that we're always being programmed in a bad way. We might just be programmed to want to buy a certain pair of shoes over another pair of shoes. That's whatever. But if we're going to change this, if we're going to make it so that we're not just captured slaves, we're going to have to acknowledge that we definitely have a problem. We have a problem with programs being programmed. They call it television programming for a reason. We don't even understand, meaning like most of us common people, don't understand the science behind flicker rates and things like that. And what you see on the television, how it drops your brain into a certain state, which is more susceptible to programming. I remember there's this clip that you can find. It's insane. You remember back when we were kids, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the television would go off. Like there was no more programming. They would run the America the Beautiful
anthem or something.
Yeah. And then it would end. Then it would just go to that fuzzy snow. There's a clip of that America the Beautiful, and they're running the words to it across the bottom. But as the sentence is being sung and changing over to the next sentence, the words are sort of flipping and it's sort of tumbling. And if you watch as it's tumbling, it spells out certain messages like trust the government and don't question authority. Don't question authority. And you can find these, and it's so crazy because it's subliminal messaging, and it's been going on since, back then, which I'm guessing was probably sometime in the 70s, I think. And I've found these, and and you can watch it, and there's like arrows pointing to like people that have dug it all apart, and they're like, you watch it and you're like, oh my God, it's right there. I can totally see it. So we're being programmed. There's no doubt about it. And for us to, I don't think there's any sort of shame in admitting that. That's what's happening. It's just an acknowledgement of fact.
It's the way we work. And honestly, I think people have been doing it since ancient times.
Oh, I'm sure.
The incantations and different forms. Now it's more sophisticated. And I think it's really good if you know your programming and you can program yourself.
Yeah.
You can build your own habits and things like that.
Yeah.
You can put yourself in trance and people, meditate and that active meditation, they put themselves in trance or they just hype themselves up before a game. That's programming, like you do a routine, or actors do those things before they go on stage, and they do them over and over and over to get that state. I think that's cool. But when it's a kid or when it's adult and you don't know it,
yeah,
like you said, once I realized that I was just clicking on thumbnail, I was like, oh, okay, I can alter this. Once I realized, when you have it's all cutesy sounds, Facebook friends, they chose the word friend on purpose.
Yeah.
They didn't just choose, associate or contact. It's your friend. They chose the heart on Twitter for a reason. They got the cute birds, it's all well designed. They have classes on how to make your games more addictive.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's important. And I believe we can, use it to program ourselves to be the person you want to be. But man, kids, are you kidding me? Hell, adults, are you kidding me? How many of your friends are just like, their political opinions or their philosophies aren't their own. It's just something they saw on TV, and somebody came in with that bad philosophy, and the music went wah wah wah. Right. You don't want to be like that guy. You want to be.
We're getting programmed when we watch TV, and there's laugh tracks. It's telling us what we're supposed to think is funny and what we're not supposed to think. When this is like you said, that wah wah wah, that's your cue that this person is a knucklehead, and here's the laugh track, and there's the cue that this person was funny, and it's like, are we so dumb that we don't even know the difference? And I guess the answer is there is a percentage of us that yes, we need to be told what to do, and that's there's that exists. It's and I don't even really necessarily have a problem with somebody there's trying to tell me what to do. It's the problem is when it's covert, when I'm not supposed to know that I'm being programmed, when I'm supposed to think that I'm having an original thought, but it's not my original thought. It's something that's being pumped into me, or I'm having my emotions manipulated by this or that, or I'm watching the beginning of a football game and everyone's doing the national anthem, and then the jets fly over, like the big roar, and everybody's supposed to get goosebumps and everything. And it's like all that shit, all that symbolism, that's a form of this covert programming. We're getting, filled up with it. And then we don't even know it. And then we go out into the world and spread our message. And we've been infiltrated by this programming, and it's hard to think whether or not we've ever had an original thought, right? It's come from somewhere, a culture factory or our television or our family or our religion or something. It's like,
I believe Picasso once said, the only thing original is an accident.
That's funny.
In art, oh, you made an accident. Oh, that's new. And they move on with it. Because otherwise it's just rehash. How many sitcom stories are there? Like 12?
Yeah,
and they just kind of repeat them over and over,
How many medical dramas do we have to see on TV before we're like, okay, enough of the TV shows of cops, or enough of the TV shows of nurses, or what? It's like, Jesus, there's like,
and it is propaganda, like journalists. I thought like somebody was trying to talk about, journalistic integrity or ethics. I was like, That's just some made up shit journalists made.
What's that?
And we see it. The only reason we believe it is we saw some movies or TV shows. That's not how the world works. I mean, it's not how it's supposed to work. Yeah. You know, it's not just about the truth. It's like people are people. People have a message, and it's all perspective and your perception. And that leads us to the next painting. What do you say, Charlie?
Let's see it.
All right. So this painting, let's do called Faulty Assumptions.
Yeah, this is the one. So we go up and you show me your art book, and you'd show me this picture, and you say,
"Okay,
what do you think?"
Okay. Yes. Am I sharing screen yet?
I'm seeing something, but I'm still seeing myself. Yeah, there we go. Now I see it.
Okay. So this painting's called Faulty Assumptions.
Yeah.
And I'm making a digital little microfilm for this. It might be out by the time this podcast is released.
Okay.
So I usually get people to look at it for 30 seconds or so. I think that's what we did, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And once they think they know what it's about, I reveal. But would you like to describe it for your audience?
Yeah. So the picture is almost the entire. It's a vertical picture. It's a picture of a guy, of a painted picture of a man with blonde hair who's wearing a black or blue jeans and like a tannish jacket that's buttoned all the way up. He's got an armband, kind of looks like a Nazi armband, but the swastika has been replaced with the Bitcoin logo. He's got his right hand in his jacket pocket, and he's got his left hand sticking straight out, pointing out kind of at a 45-degree angle, kind of like a Sieg Heil thing. This guy looks kind of military, a little bit militaristic, probably because of the armband. Above his head, there is a closed circuit TV camera that's pointing down onto him. And then underneath, and around him, there's paintings there's 3 different people's faces. It looks like one of them is Che Guevara, one of them is Madonna, and the third one looks kind of like that kid that got captured in North Korea and killed, but I don't know who, I don't know who he is, but and then above the mouth of this main character with the blonde hair and the Bitcoin and doing the Sieg Heil is one of those cartoon bubbles, like a white cartoon bubble where text should be, except there's no text there. And I think what you said was, what would you fill the text bubble with, right? Was that the question, kind of?
Yeah. What is he saying?
What's he saying in this picture? And you're like, God damn. You're like, well, there's surveillance component. There's the Bitcoin, which kind of looks like, the Bitcoin logo kind of looks like the Nazi armband. He is doing like the salute and everything. I'm not sure what to make of Che Guevara. That could be more like authoritarianism or something. And the Madonna, I don't know. And this third person who I'm not even sure who it is. I'm kind of like, I wasn't really sure what the answer was. I think the answer is maybe even irrelevant. It's the thought exercise of you trying to figure out what somebody is going to be saying, and inevitably you're going to make a faulty assumption, which is the name of the picture.
Yes. Is that one? I don't think that's in the book you have.
It's in the back of it. Yeah, I've got it.
Okay, good.
And it shows 2 pictures. One is with the word bubble covered with white tape, and then the second is when you pull the white tape off, it reveals that there is text underneath the bubble.
Correct. So
there you go.
We pull off
picture. You're starting to see it be pulled, the tape pulled apart to expose the first letter, which is the letter T, and then you pull the whole thing off, and all he's doing is asking for a taxi.
So he's hailing a cab.
He's hailing a cab.
So, and I always say, we live in a world of incomplete data, and our minds fill in the blank. And, we have these false assumptions, and we just kind of build our reality based upon them. And we just kind of build upon blanks and blanks. And that's the truth is, we probably get 1% of all the stimuli, all the information that's coming into us. We can only take and process a small amount, our brains, and we kind of just fill in the blanks. And, it's kind of, actually, I'm trolling people because, I throw those tropes up. There's the character, there's a woman I merged Madonna and Marilyn Monroe to kind of do a trope of glamour. It's Che Guevara and Castro merged.
Right.
And on the bottom, it's actually a guy named Vitalik Buterin and Mr. Spock.
Okay. He's the guy that, didn't he start Ethereum?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, he did. He started Ethereum. And there's the surveillance camera eye that I kind of put in a lot of paintings.
Yeah.
The thing is about this one that's interesting is there probably been maybe 100 people have looked at it and told me what they think it means before I pull off the tape. And I've gotten all kinds of answers. Well, the blonde hair guy is based off of Tintin, a Belgian comic strip. So a French guy, was like, oh, it's because Tintin's writer was a fascist back in the 30s. I've had people that, thought that Vitalik was an Auschwitz victim.
Yeah.
I've had, jumped over. I've had people that from Asia that don't get the Nazi thing at all because they don't grow up with those movies, that culture. Their enemy isn't always the Nazis, as we kind of have or were as I was growing up. That was like the perpetual bad guy in a movie. So they don't grow up with that. But the most interesting, is one guy looked at it. He said, "Oh yeah, I didn't think it was Nazi. It was the wrong arm for a salute." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think of that." So like I said, it's the eye of the beholder. We all live in this. We all create our own realities, and we kind of create our realities based upon those realities.
Yeah.
So that kind of touches on what you were saying earlier.
And we also extrapolate what we think these people are actually saying when maybe they aren't saying anything like that. But in our heads, we're filling in the blanks of this narrative. And in our narrative, that guy is yelling, Sieg Heil, but in reality, he's just calling for a taxi. And that's sort of we're dragging our prejudices and our opinions into this. It's fascinating. Because obviously the first time you showed it to me, I did not get that he was going to be saying taxi. And I think that's obviously the point of it. But what is he saying? Well, that's for you to decide based on what you're making an assumption on the way he looks and these people around it. And it's a fascinating thought exercise for sure.
Yeah, I've had people tell me it's changed the way they look at things. And I try to myself, like when somebody's if I see something in the street and or somebody aggravates me or something happens, I try to it's like the benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't really know what reality is. I'm putting in my own thoughts into this. It's like the story of a guy that's in an emergency room and there's these little kids running around acting crazy. You may have heard this story, and he's like just getting frustrated because he's like hurt, waiting to go see the doctor, but these kids are running around and there's the dad's there and he's like not minding the kids. And the guy kind of gets frustrated. He's like, "Those your kids?" The guy's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. Are they running around?" He's like, "Their mom's sick in the hospital and I haven't been thinking." And the guy immediately reevaluates the situation. He thought the guy was a bad parent, and then he's like, "Oh, he didn't realize the kid's mom is sick." All kinds of other things could be going on.
Right,
is one example. It's just like we don't know what the truth is, and we build upon the truth, and we build upon it. And I mean, in the community of I don't want to say conspiracy theory because that's not the world. A lot of people do that in a sense of they start to, we don't have all the info, Well, they have a guess, and then they'll build something upon that guess, and they'll build a whole Alfred Hitchcock plot.
Yes.
Based upon a guess. And then that frustrates me in like the anarcho-polka world, because I was like, there's a lot of stuff we have verifiable evidence. Let's kind of go with that and make a change.
I feel the same way. Yeah. It's like, well, what is Q writing? What is Q doing? This and that. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know that any of that stuff is even real. I'll tell you what, I don't even need to focus on that, because I still have a mountain of stuff that is real that I haven't even gotten through yet. Like let's prioritize here.
Yes.
We don't need to invent things, because we've got real things happening that we still haven't sorted out. All right, let's see this next one, this Daffy Duck.
Okay. All right.
Because this is a new one. I haven't seen this one before.
Yeah, that's not in that book. It's in the newer one. This is a 2019 painting. This one is called, all right, Donald Goes to the Dark Web.
Oh boy.
So this is one of my, the way I describe it is Donald, enraged with jealousy, seeing his girl with another, went down to the dark web, and using the private cryptocurrency Monero, he bought weaponry to bio-augment himself, to biohack himself, to get weapon augmentation, to get revenge and heal his broken heart.
Wow. So I'll try to paint the picture of this. This is Donald Duck, who is looking at Daffy Duck with Daisy Duck. Looks like Daisy's giving him kind of like a flirty look, and Daffy Duck is kind of like, yeah, let's hook this up. He's got, there's like a yellow spiral kind of going behind that gives it this sort of like drifting into the Twilight Zone feel. And Donald Duck is looking at this. You can tell like he's got like an angered look on his face, but he has bioengineered himself. His arm, his regular arm, wing, wing arm, I don't know what you want to call it. One of them has been replaced by this metallic Terminator style like metal hand, and his foot on the same side, his webbed foot has been replaced by this like spiky Mad Max style like round steamroller with spikes all over it type of contraption, and he's kind of looking at him like, oh yeah, well I see you two flirting with each other, but now I'm specially upgraded and I'm going to go do something about it. And then there's the Monero logo down sort of off to the center.
Yeah.
It's funny because this is pulling in just a whole lot of themes. You've got the dark web, you've got cryptocurrency, Monero specifically, you've got enhancements to your physical body, like artificial enhancements. This goes beyond like, I lost my arm in the war and I'm getting a mechanical arm. This is like getting a mechanical arm so that you can dominate the world type of, looks like that sort of, it doesn't look like it, like Donald Duck lost his arm and his flipper in the war. It looks like he went to Elon Musk's house and got himself, some better armor, some better equipment so that he can go seek revenge. It's really kind of a crazy painting.
You do a really good explanation, Charlie. That's good.
I'm trying to paint this picture for everybody listening, because I know that half the people listening right now are at the gym, Okay. So they're like, I'll check the video when I get home. But for now, they're like, we're going to have to do this. But I like how you incorporate all the Looney Tunes and Disney World into all of it, because these are images that we grew up with as kids, so we sort of relate to it, and we have this emotional attachment to, we understand what these characters already sound like when they're not even saying anything. We understand what their personalities are kind of like, even though they're not doing anything necessarily in these paintings. So it helps to fill us in on a little of the backstory, but then again, like the painting we just talked about, that could be dangerous too if we're making assumptions about things.
Yes. And I mean, on paintings, on one level, I really just want to make aesthetically pleasing, fun things. That's like the number one. And then the bonus is the statements and the things and the questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. Like I said, these images they're kind of like hieroglyphs for us. I feel like they're our shared language. These cartoons, just symbols, things we have around the world, like different symbols that we communicate with, whether that just be like the play button, that arrow, or, the pause, the two lines. Anywhere you go in the world, that symbol.
Yeah.
Same as like the home symbol.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter what language you speak. We use and emojis, around the world. We're using these hieroglyphs. And I feel like we're entering this level of new communication. Like people speak with memes and GIFs all day long. Like it's accelerating. I don't know if you do it, but I've definitely been in like a forum and seen people have a conversation, just, one GIF after another.
Yeah.
And they don't even have to know the movie or whatever that GIF is referencing. It's like it's a thing in and of itself.
Yeah.
Not just from the movie it came from.
And that's a form of art. That's a form of artistic expression. And you're conveying a message through an image without saying anything additionally. It's powerful and if done right. And they of course talk about how, what do they say? The left can't meme, so some groups are at a disadvantage when it comes to that. Some have a better handle on how to use visual, an image to paint, to tell a story. That's when you've done it right. When you don't even need to say anything, you just show them something and it speaks for you, and everyone goes, I know what that is. Okay, I get it.
No, I've seen you have to just someone crush a debate with a meme. Like somebody's having heated and they just throw out an image and they're like, whoa, destroy the other person.
Yeah.
Because it has all that other underlying stuff that we carry with us, we're the generation, we're Gen Xers. Yeah. I don't know what they call us, latchkey generation. Yeah, I'd say we're the generation that was babysat by the TV. Yeah. Like plop, here you go.
Scooby-Doo and all that.
Scooby-Doo.
After school.
I'll see you in 5 hours, kid. 6 hours. Just watch TV,
But then we take that in and we're now adults and we have a conversation with somebody. And if I say to them, I was going to get away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids. Everybody in our generation knows exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about the end of Scooby-Doo when they pull the mask off the person, they expose it. So there is like, that's part of our culture. And that's part of our culture that connects to us, but to kids, the new Gen Z, like you were talking about, they don't see that. They don't have that. They might understand what it means, but they don't have that instant connection to like, oh, I know what you're talking about. I know that feeling of being at home in front of the TV when I'm 8 and the end of Scooby-Doo. And you're like, oh, it was the Spectre. I should have known it was the Spectre. You know what I mean? And so it conveys this message without words. And that is, that's the beauty of art, huh?
It is. And the art and science is merging. Like we're in a weird era in our civilization. We've kind of hinted on this before. Like, I feel like my art at this point is really about the end of civilization. And I mean it like, when people say end of civilization, I used to think that meant, everything's destroyed.
Right.
But civilizations end all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, or in a cycle, when a civilization ends, that means like feudalism ended. It wasn't like everything destroyed. It just shifted to something else. Yeah. Like our civilization is shifting. It's ending.
It's
ending. It's ending. And what's ending, like the crossbow ended medieval civilization. Because now any old, you probably know this, but like a crossbow, you could train someone to use a crossbow in like 10 minutes.
Right.
You aim, point, shoot. There's a little more to it, but it's not that much.
Right.
Versus a longbow, you need 10 years to become good at that. And, 10 years to become good at a sword or a bow and arrow. But a crossbow, you could just hand a peasant a crossbow. They could aim it and they could take out a knight.
Right.
And a knight was like a tank back in the day.
Right.
And that changed civilization because the knight could just dominate these peasants. And now all of a sudden, someone could become a force to take out a tank like that. And that ended the medieval rule. It changed the way things were. It changed the dynamic. It ended feudalism in its own sense. And I remember hearing the quote that I think was Pope Pius the first or second said, this when he saw the crossbow, it would end civilization. I laughed as a kid. I remember seeing it in like high school or something. I was going, thinking that's what we think about nuclear weapons. They're going to end civilization. Nothing to be afraid of. I didn't see it in context. And cryptocurrency is that crossbow, or cryptography in a sense is a crossbow in that sense that we can now, it's a weapon. Cryptography was considered a weapons grade material. You couldn't export cryptography to another country for a long time until Bill Clinton signed, I think it was in 91, he signed this act. Or it wasn't 91, it was like 98 or something. But he signed an act where you could export cryptography. You could do cryptography, which allowed people to use credit cards online to make payments online. Right. It was a big deal when he did that, and I didn't realize why. But our entire civilization is based on cryptography, on being able to do a credit card transaction online and things like that, make purchases. You kind of feel where I'm going with this? Yeah. Like cryptography is like being able to send a message without anyone being able to read it is either going to be unacceptable to the powers that be, or it's going to change our civilization completely. Yeah. Because if you and I can send messages and we can't be snooped upon, oh man, that's a game changer. I don't really know where I'm going with this. Like I'm like thinking out loud. I'm riffing. Yeah.
But your art has a crypto slant to it. It has a privacy slant to it, and of course, those two things go together. And who put the crypto wallet on my phone? You did. You know what I mean? You're like, this is the one you want. We'll do this. So you're teaching me about this. I know very little about the technical components of it, but I do know about the concept of it, the concept of cryptography and things like. My dad, apparently, my dad died when I was 16. I didn't have the ability to have these deep conversations about what he did. But when he was younger, he was in the army and he was a crypto analyst. He was working on the Cuban Missile Crisis, apparently. I don't know. I wish I had the ability to get the details of that, but it was back then. And so I understand the importance of that. I understand. I mean, if you study World War II, you know about the Enigma machine and the code breaking, and that can change everything. That can change the balance of power in that war. In fact, I think it did. So,
honestly, it won the war.
Yeah.
Cryptography won World War II. Yeah. But they can't talk about it. That actually was one, when I learned about that, it was one of the young idealistic patriot, Johnny Dollar, that, put his hand over his heart and said, I pledge allegiance to the flag. Slowly, you get that starts to wear away.
Yeah.
The 2000 election was like the first bit, college, I was a little woke, but like that really got me when I was like, oh, the Supreme Court decided our president? No runoff election like they do everywhere else in the world and all those things. I started to question, like heavily question, like my young man beliefs.
Right.
But the World War II one, when I found out we had broke the Enigma, the Nazi code early in the war, very early in the war, but we didn't want them to know that. We kept wanting to get the information theory, we kept wanting to get their information. We didn't want them to know we know their code. So when ships were going out, we'd get code that they were going to get submarined, but we'd still send this ship out and have these sailors die.
Yeah.
Knowingly, our own troops, because we didn't want to lose the information advantage by knowing we know their code. We were willing to give up those guys to get a bigger fish later. And I mean, that's disheartening. I think a lot of Americans would freak out if they heard that.
Yeah.
You know, it would upset them because they, you know, their dad fought at Guadalcanal.
Right.
You know, where really the guys that won the war were some eggheads in England and in Cambridge University, you know, just kind of looking at code. Yeah. We'd broken the Japanese code really early. Did you know, like, the Battle of Midway was the one that, like, turned the war, where Nimitz, like, they didn't want him to do this, by the way, but he found out the Japanese Navy was going to be right here in the Pacific. So in the fog at night, he brought his fleet and attacked them. Like, in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific. Like, it's a 1 in a billion chance 2 fleets would meet there accidentally. And he knew it, you know, and the Japanese were ready to surrender after that.
Yeah.
They tried to surrender like 3 times. Yeah. But we didn't want to accept it for several reasons. Yeah. We wanted a complete, you know, regime change, and we wanted to try out that cool bomb we got.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it's like I feel like a dark chill came over, you know, the conversation, but
it's the power of technology and information in the right hands or the wrong hands, and code breaking and things like that. It goes to the core of it. And we talk about privacy in our society, and the role of cryptocurrency and it, you know, encryption and things like that. And you start to see the governments coming out and talking against it. They don't want you to have that. They want access to all that stuff. They don't want Bitcoin. They don't want this stuff. They don't want, because they know that that's part of the key to unlocking. If we can make it so that the governments can't corrupt it, then that's their whole racket. You know, their racket is corrupting things. And for them to not be able to corrupt the currency, as they have been through the Fed over the last 100 years or so, to corrupt the information that they want put out, and to read our personal thoughts. I mean, boy, it's something we need to embrace. We can't give that up ever.
No, data is, we live in that information age. And like, it used to be like land was power. Then it was machines were power. Then it was money is power. Now data is power, because data equals money. Data equals control. Yeah. You know, Charlie, it's funny, like this last few months, I've really kind of, like I said, I've probably mentioned that before. A lot of us have, like, in the course of 2020, have reevaluated things and seen things different. And I don't know if you remember that show Game of Thrones.
Yes.
You know, I've come to realize that our politics, I always knew it, but it's so Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know, like a buddy of mine was talking about, and he's kind of on the, you know, I don't want to say he's right or anything like that, but he was like, you know, talking about some emails and Clinton going to jail and things like that and getting all this. I was like, man, that'll never happen. I mean, it's Game of Thrones. Like, their supporters wouldn't accept that, as these other supporters won't accept this. It's like we're just peons, like you said before. But I was like, in Game of Thrones, I'm not even like a character. Right. They don't even. I'm like, they might pass by me. I'm like in like selling a clay pot or something to some right. You know, like, you know, we are so below any of these guys. They live in their own world. They're playing their own games, and we're just looking at shadows on the wall. Right. And, you know, like, I'm not cheering for this team or that team. They don't give a shit about me. No. You know,
I'm with you. It's been exposed over this last year that it's like, I mean, I hope it's been exposed. I mean, I think a lot of people are waking up to that reality, although we do have an election, so you get polarizing and you get one side versus the other. But there's a lot of people out there that are like, you know, we got to get out and vote. You got to get out and vote. It's like, why? Neither one of these two candidates has earned my vote. How about this? How about I don't have to go out and vote for anyone? How about they give me a compelling reason to actually vote for them? And if they don't, I don't participate in this bullshit. I go to the George Carlin route, which is when people would say to him, "You don't vote, so you're in no position to complain." And his response was, "Oh, no, you've got that exactly backwards. I don't vote, therefore I have the right to complain. You voted for these fuckers. You're the one that doesn't have a right to complain because you're part of the problem. I'm not. I didn't vote for them, therefore I am allowed to complain." And that's where I go to too, because if I voted for Ross Perot, and I voted for Ron Paul. I think I voted for Ron Paul. I either wrote his name in or it was whatever. But two.
There was 1 year we could vote for him, and then write him in. Yeah.
Yeah. What?
I voted for Ralph Nader once.
I mean, but we're voting for people that we find to be authentic and interesting and really looking to change things. I don't see that in Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I look at more catfighting and shit like that, but whatever. I mean, that's just
really, I mean, I think now it's like, I'm looking to find the tribe that, you find an anarcho-pulco. It's like, what are we going to do? Like, it's at a point of like, we got to build our own communities.
Yeah.
Cause like, I mean, I can't like, I don't want to say there's civil war or something, because I don't see it like that, but there's definitely tension where I live.
Yeah.
And, there's little whispers of things, and I don't know, there are guys looking at maps, if you know what I'm saying. And we're a nation that's been at the forever war, the George Orwellian thing. As long as I've been alive, we've been at war, if you count the war on drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And, we've been at war so long, we have millions of people that have combat service in this country. We have tens, if not hundreds of millions of guns in this country. And we have a tense political environment. On one level, if you want law and order, you probably want, no privacy and AI algorithms to watch everybody.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what to root for. For me, I'm starting to look at Costa Rica and go, man, I'd really like to learn to surf.
I know.
If I had a family, do I want to raise them in this, or would I want to? I don't know. You're a family man,
And where I started that book, where I started writing the Controlled Demolition book, with Jeff Berwick, was in Costa Rica. I started it there. That's where I was sitting right overlooking the beach, and I started all the framework for how we were going to put that thing together. And I was sitting in Costa Rica thinking, this doesn't suck. This might be a good place. I'm going to write about how it's all coming down. Maybe I should just stay here. It would be.
I've never been there. It sounds like it's worth a visit.
It's worth a visit. It's a nice place. Hey, where can people find your artwork? Where can they support you? Okay. Where can they buy your stuff?
Okay, they can find my work at johnnydollar.biz or johnnydollar.art, the websites. I sell, that's probably the best way. You can find me on Twitter as well at johnnydollarart. That's about it. And they can find links to other things there.
Yeah. Well, you're the best. It's funny that, whatever, God, universe, however you want to put it. But the fact that we wound up meeting in a DMT session in Acapulco, Mexico, at a conference with a bunch of anarchists, and have become friends, and it's just amazing to me, and nothing that you could have ever really mapped out or planned out. But sometimes the best things in life happen when you just take your hands off the steering wheel, just see what the fuck is, the universe has in store for you, and you just roll with it. And I feel like that's what we did. And it's,
dude, I applaud that. Yes.
Yeah.
Take your hands off the steering wheel and just go. Yeah, dude, it was great. I've enjoyed the conversation. It was really good to chat with you again, Charlie.
Me too. Hey, that's Johnny Dollar. Go support his work, buy his shit, and share it with everybody. You want to get somebody a cool Christmas gift that they've never had? Get his artwork for them. It'll blow their mind for sure. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you at the next in Acapulco for sure, if not before then.
Definitely. All right. See you.